Welcome to episode 53 of Meet the GIMP. My name is Rolf Steinort and I'm recording this in Bremen, northern Germany. In the last episode I left you with a not so good final result of this image here. And it looked like this here. I had put a layer in overlay mode over it, a copy of the background layer, and well, the difference isn't that what I wanted. But I made a simple mistake. I just took the copy from the background, from the unprocessed background, and all the effect of the two burn layers was lost. So let me switch this off. What I should have done was to make a copy of this here, a copy of the visible layer, and put that in overlay mode over it. And here you see the effect. Now it's the stuff that overlay mode should do. Now this here pops out and this gets lighter. And if I reduce this, you see I can find here, somewhere here, a point where the result is pleasing. Just to the point when GIMP will get a thing like adjustment layers, we'll have to remember one thing. If you want to operate on the stack of your layers here, you have to do the following. Let me switch this off. You go to Edit, Copy Visible, or press Shift, Ctrl and C. And then you simply paste. And you've seen nothing here because we have a floating selection, a pasted layer. We want this layer to be a new layer, so I just click here on the new layer icon. I could press on the anchor, then it would be merged with this, or put over this one, the one below. So new layer, and now I set this layer to overlay mode, and here we are. I can adjust this, and it's the same like this one here. So up to the point where we get something in GIMP like adjustment layers or so, you have to remember that if you use a copy of this here, you have to use copy visible and get the result of all this. A lot of operations are where you don't get a copy of the background. There you don't need it. If you want to change the color tint here or something else, it would work without getting this copy visible. But for everything that needs the original image or the image working on itself, you need to copy the visible layer. For a lot of stuff you don't need copy visible, but you need it every time if you want to work with a layer containing the image on the image itself, and then you need it if you have changed the image below. Good thing to remember. In the comments to last show was a question about how burn modes works. The best thing is to look into docgimp.org, and there you find a thing about layer modes, the concepts behind it, and there somewhere is the burn mode. The burn mode is a bit like overlay mode on steroids, and well, it does invert the pixel value of the lower layer, multiplies it by 256, divides that one plus the pixel value of the upper layer, then inverts the result. So this isn't really helpful. I think the best thing would be to experiment with this and to check out for yourself how these layers work. I'm using them a lot and for a long time, but I can't predict what comes out of them. It's beyond my knowledge. And now let me go back to a show where I made a comic. When you're looking for older shows, you can click here on Getting the Older Shows. And there you get a list of all the old shows, starting with episode 1. And I try to keep this up. Just now I am at episode 45, and this will be continued. And the comics thing was later, and you see here a list of the last shows, and here is comics number 50. So let's look at this one here. The final output of this image, well, I think it wasn't good enough. But now I've got a video from Andrew with another way of tackling this topic.
Hi, my name is Andrew Gill, and after last week's episode of Meet the Gimp, I wanted to try my hand at a different sort of art style that I've been working on for a while. You can see the style in some old Soviet propaganda posters, and more recently, a man by the name of Shepard Fairey has been doing a series of these off of the theme of Andre the Giant. If you're in the United States, he's been doing some work for the Obama campaign. I decided not to show his images because they're not Creative Commons licensed, but I'll provide a link for you. Anyways, I decided to start with Rolf's image here and see if I could do a similar sort of style with it. And I've done some of the work beforehand. First thing I want to do is to separate the flesh and the shirt from the background. And so I used paths for these. You can see the paths here, the path for the shirt and the path for the flesh is here. And you want to use paths for these because you want a nice clean edge. But so I've taken this and I've desaturated it so that it's just black and white. And from here, what I could do is I could posterize it. Set this down to 3 levels, and here we go. I could posterize this, set it down to 3 levels, but I'm going to show you a way that has a little bit more control. If you go into curves, what we're going to do here is we're just going to sort of set this to 3 different levels here. So that we have highlights, midtones, and darks. And if we want to move this around, see if we can, it's too dark there. And I guess we could use a little bit more light. Let's move this over here. Okay. So now we actually do want to posterize this. Take this and make sure that all those midtones are only 3 different colors. And then we take our select by color, select the grays. I'm going to make those, say, yellow. Select the whites, and we're going to make this off-white here. And the black, we're going to turn red. And now, if you look, we have created a very iconic poster here. And now we're going to move on to the shirt here. And for the shirt, I usually just do 2 colors. Just move it around until you get something that looks good. Keep some of the definition in there. Let's try about there. And we're going to do this again. Just going to select the white going to make that this yellow and select the black, make that a red, and here we go. Very simple, very easy. You can now, sort of jazz it up a bit if you want. The last thing I want to mention about this is if you want to save this, it may be a good idea to make it an indexed file, because you're only going to create 4 colors here. I'm going to use this custom palette that I created using just those 4 colors. And if I do that, I wind up with a much smaller file when I save it as a ping file. So let's see here. Save this to this ping file and export. And there we go. Just want to show you another case I have here. It works better on things that are much larger than the file that Rolf had. And then if you have errors like this, all you need to do is go into there we go, on that layer. Just go in there, just grab whatever color you need, and just right over it. That. And let's see here. I go back to my original image here. Let me show you what happens actually if I go to posterize this. What I was talking about before. Wrong one. If I posterize this, that's not going to look very good. I'm going to get some weird shapes, and it's not going to look the way that you want. So that's why I always go into levels or go into curves and do it that way. I also separate the hair and do that separately, because that usually has a different set of values than the face. Face is the thing that you need to have those highlights, midtones, and shadows in. So once again, it's pretty simple. Just select, do the levels, and I think this should be enough. Hope you find this interesting.
That's a nice and different approach, isn't it? Thank you, Andrew, for making this video. Oh, and by the way, if you want to make a video, it's fairly easy. For example, under Linux with Record My Desktop. If you want to give me a video about your work with open source software in photography, GIMP or other programs, record it with some of the free software that's around. Record My Desktop, for example, in Linux. And then record in at least 800 by 600 pixel. If you want to, you can record in a larger format, but the aspect ratio has to be the same as 800 by 600, so 4 by 3. This is the aspect ratio of the output format, and everything else would lead to distortions. If you are recording in a larger format, then you will lose a lot of detail. 800 by 600 is, I think, the best way. And then send it to me. Please don't optimize it if you are not very sure what you are doing. If you have a lot of experience with this, do it. But if not, leave it to me. I have now a year of experience with this stuff, and try to make it good enough. So let's compare this image here from Andrew with this Soviet Union poster. There are certain differences. This is definitely a photography, and this is definitely made by painting. Here we have areas of color, and we have gradients of color. I don't know which technique was used here. Perhaps it's a xerograph or painting, although no idea. Here we have a lot of small detail. you see here at the jacket, or here, this here. In a comic, this would be an area with a gradient on it, or perhaps just some lines. And the face too. It would be reduced in detail. And that was the stuff that made me uneasy with my own image in the comic style. Too much detail. And I think we have to look, if we go further into this area, we have to look to lose more detail and to go to shapes, like here. I think this is a great image, except for the content perhaps, but it's a great image in this special artistic style. And this one is good too, but it isn't the eye-catcher as this one here. So there's still something to do, and so you can be sure this is not the last episode of Meet the GIMP, especially not the last one about this comic style. Sometimes in the future I want to do a Liechtenstein. And now I have a challenge for you. I got a mail from Ted. He is researching his family history and gets reproductions of old documents. These reproductions are, well, of, let's say, of a different quality. He asked me if I knew a way to fix them. With thumb it's easy. Just a little bit of curves and you are finished. Some need a little bit of perspective correction or such stuff. But some are real brain twisters. As a challenge for you, I'll put these documents online at meetthegimp.org. You'll find a link in the show notes for this show. And next week I'll tell you how to report about the results. It's quite tricky though, so you will need this week. And I'll have a week to figure out how to organize this. And especially a challenge is this one here. Can you separate in a not paint over the wrong direction writing way, can you separate these two writings written crosswise? The result is not to look fine or artistic or so. The only goal is to increase the readability of the text. Please document the steps you have taken, perhaps in a little video, or just write them down and send me at info@meetthegimp.org your final image and the way you have done it. I'm very interested what you can do with these images here. And this was it for this week. Next week I'll... Stop! Wait a moment. There's some new video coming in. It's from Bill Stye, or William Steitman. He has looked into some new features of GIMP 2.5. Let's have a look. This here is 2.4, and perhaps you have ever tried to make a triangle selection or something else with the free selection tool. It looks, well, a bit like this here. Of course you can use the path tool for this, but the free select tool would be quite handy without the way of a path and converting them into a selection. And here it's the same with 2.5. You see, you can even mix the freehand drawing type and the straight lines or polygon type. Great thing, isn't it? And there's something else new here. If you want to paint over the border of an image in GIMP 2.4, your image has to be smaller than your viewport. If you have zoomed that far in that your image is bigger than the viewport, then you are stuck. You can't go over the edge. This has changed in 2.5. Here you can click on the little arrow next to the slider, and then the edge of your image gets visible. This is really the edge of the image and not the edge of the layer. Bill, thank you for this video. You have a very fine voice for doing screen recordings, but it didn't work out. And now we'll go back to the scheduled program. And this was it for this week. Next week I'll go back, not in person but with an image, back to Čakovec, and well, you'll see an old fortress and a nightclub. Goodbye.
photocastnetwork.com, your photography resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com